Hey everyone, my name is Justin. Welcome to the channel where I like to take a look at games, classic and modern, and kind of give our thoughts on how they appeal to different generations.
Today we are taking a look at Terra Memoria, a small indie game that answers the question, if Breath of Fire, Dark Cloud, and Zootopia had a baby, would it dance on crystal clouds or prefer to garden with hyenas while a hippie sloth bard performs a set? This roughly 20-hour RPG was one that slid under the radar, so we had the wonderful opportunity to go in completely blind. So, how does it measure up? Terra Memoria is set in a world where magic is very common, and most of the way of life is powered by crystals that are grown, harvested, and distributed to the various cities. However, recently machines known as carcasses have been increasing in numbers and aggression. The game kicks off with a brief battle, after which we switch perspectives briefly and take over as Syl, a fox that can summon spirits. She's left her school and returned to the big city only to find her family has moved on and nobody knows where they've gone. She joins up with Moshan, a rhino mage, who volunteers to assist her, and they set off, quickly getting swept up in the investigation into the decreasing crystal supplies.
I felt the story was one of the bigger weaknesses here. It's easy flowing and moves at a decent pace, however, the writing leaves a lot to be desired. Everything is played off as lighthearted and goofy, and while this can be a breath of fresh air in spots, when everything is played off this way, it makes it really hard to get into. For example, the mayor randomly walking off the job, and we track him down. Oh, sorry, he can't help you because he gave the mayor sash to a random hyena. Oh, you want it back? Sorry, he doesn't know where the hyena went beyond a vague direction. He gave it up because the hyena really likes holes, and the sash had a hole in it. Once you retrieve it, the city takes its gap in leadership super serious and appoints the gardener as mayor because she was around the old mayor or something. A lighthearted approach can be refreshing, but I felt like the writing leaned too heavily into it, and as such, it really missed the mark for me.
I don't know, Dad. I thought it was hilarious. Though I do agree with you on the writing. The side quests being super vague was annoying for me. The kid needs a plushie. Where is this plushie? No clue. I agree it's fine here and there, but they do this for just about every quest. I really did love Meta narrating her emotions, and everyone kind of being helpless goofs was really funny. After playing games like Unicorn Overlord and Persona 3, this felt much less serious, and I appreciated that.
I get that, and while the story does eventually get to where it makes some sense, I felt like it just took too long to get there and was really predictable. By the end, I just wasn't engaged anymore.
So the main cast is split up into 6 characters. So I'll handle the active units, and Dad can do the support characters. Moshan is the first person we are introduced to. A rhino constant mage, he just wants to be a big help. He's huge and kind of gets annoyed because people think, he should be doing physical stuff because he's a big strong beast. Syl the Fox is a summoner who early on loses her summon spirit, which just happens to be her grandmother. Her quest to find her spirit and her family is one of the main drivers of the story, and she tends to be one with the most emotion in the writing. Meta is a weird creature we run into in a random cave. She has the ability to change her form to match creatures she finds. This gives her different elements to her spells. Her shape-shifting is super cool.
I liked Syl and Moshan. Moshan in particular, being the brute that just wants to be mage, is a cool flip on classic tropes, although the libraries always being called dumps was kind of weird to me. Through the game, we are joined by 3 supports. Each one is randomly paired with one of our 3 mages in combat. This can be limited in the menu system a bit, but I didn't mess with that as I kind of like the randomness. Each of them, when paired up, offers a way to change up how your mages behave in combat. Also, the Sloth Musician, the first support we get, simply changes your spells from attacking to healing. So Syl's first ability, her AoE wind attack, becomes an AoE heal, and her single target heal becomes a single target nuke. Edson, the human engineer with robotic limbs, T changes all abilities from single target to AoE, and vice versa. This is incredibly useful, especially when it gets paired with meta, as all of her abilities early on are single target only. Opal the blacksmith with a talking hammer, though, she can change the element of an attack, so Sill's wind attack may do fire damage, or lightning, or any other element. Although it's important to remember, what element you can change a spell into is randomized on every turn, not every battle. Terra Memoria is a turn-based RPG where encounters are visible on the world map. The purple spirits are monsters, while the red ones are carcasses, and the bosses stand outside on their own. As you run through the map, it's a fairly linear setup. Combat is done in a turn-based style where there's a turn gauge on the bottom of the screen. Each action has a cost associated with it, which is how many turns back it pushes you after you use it before you move again. You select which spell or heal your unit will do on its turn, and if a unit runs out of HP, they just kind of sit unconscious for a bit. It's fairly straightforward and easy to pick up. There's some pros and cons to the setup though. On one hand, your HP refills after each battle, which takes the stress out of dungeons and overworld exploration, as you never have to worry about your resources getting too low. On the con side, it's really simplistic, and I wish there was a little more complexity to the game.
At the same time, Dad, the battles are really slow. You have to use abilities to break the enemy's shields.
Like in Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, enemies have weaknesses. Hitting them by anything reduces their shield by 1. Hitting their weaknesses will reduce it by 2. If you break them, they become weak to everything and fall back in the turn order. Basic enemies have a shield of 3, while bosses usually have 5 to 6. There's a simplistic elegance to the system, and it's really easy to pick up. Now, the problem is, most enemies seem to have a lot of HP, and these make fights seem really slow. It doesn't help that you don't level up like most RPGs. Here, the game cuts right back into the overworld after a fight, and a notice will appear in the corner letting you know how much experience you got. Then, you'll find a campfire or an inn, sleep, and you'll level up in batches. These spikes are nice, but it can be overwhelming if you're underleveled. While these campfires, you can craft new badges, which is the armor for this game, or cook. The cooking is crucial in Terra Memoria. Each zone will give you a few new recipes, and I really suggest cooking as soon as you're able. Each dish permanently increases the entire party's HP. There was one spot where we were in a bind, and then realized we hadn't cooked in a while. Found a campsite, cooked like 9 recipes, and got a big bump up. These swings in survivability really impact the game. That said, the cooking minigame is a short little rhythm game, which I always enjoy, so that's cool.
That's a great point, son. I almost forgot about the cooking. The other element, and one that isn't used as much as I'd like, is the city building. There's a little bit of Dark Cloud in here, where you get a city and residents make requests, you collect materials, craft houses, workshops, accessories, and place people near things. Completing these quests gives you nice rewards, such as materials or food recipes, and this can be fun. The downside, though, is the materials you need, for example boards, stones, and such, are really expensive. And money is scarce in this game, especially in the early game, when you haven't gotten the pin recipes for Opal to make that can sell for decent amounts. That said, there's a large amount of customization here, from buildings to trees, stairs, accessories, and even foliage. It's a neat system that I wish had a bigger impact on the game. Unfortunately, the entire city building system is completely optional and, in the end, doesn't really impact the game.
I really need to play Dark Cloud someday, because that sounds awesome. I like the city builder part, but I really like the puzzles. Scattered throughout the map are random skill puzzles where you'll have to unlock shrines so Moshae can meditate, or solve a puzzle by lighting all the pillars at once so Meta can get a new form, or you'll find a spirit to fight so Sill can get a new summon. Each character has 4 moves, but there's an alternative to each spot that's a different element or AoE versus single target. The puzzles were really cool, and I like the system of learning abilities as you go, but they are missable, and I would have liked it more if they were tied to the levels like most games. While Dad didn't care for the story, I was really disappointed by the music. The footsteps you make and the spell sound effects were fine, but the music was really forgettable. It's a lot of woodwinds and strings, which can be pretty, but here it's so subdued and often there's almost nothing. This can work in sections, but as a whole, I found it jarringly quiet.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you here, son. This, coupled with the lack of any voice acting, really hurt it, I think. Unfortunately, the little music they did have was pretty forgettable. Now, the graphics, on the other hand, were beautiful. The game is a wonderful throwback to the Breath of Fire series, and you really see that inspiration. The character sprites are detailed, the spell effects are nice. I really have to give credit to the details here. If you change Sill's wind attack to, say, fire, it will still be the wind animation, but it'll be a fire tornado instead. Or Meta's crystal attack, which drops a giant chunk of ice. You change it to stone, but we'll have a shard of rock fall instead. It's a pretty obvious detail, but one that I'm glad they put in.
It's really cool. I really like it when you change the AoE wind to lightning and it looks like she summons a big lightning storm. This plays well into the world design. The cities, fields, and such like that are really well laid out and it looks so nice. Sometimes it's unclear what hills you can run up or what paths you can go up or down, which was annoying, but it all looked great. I haven't played any of the games this was inspired by, so I don't get that love letter stuff you do, Dad. For me, this is probably a 7 out of 10. It's fun, it's not too long. I thought the world was neat and the characters were really goofy. I just wish there was more guidance given for the quests, as everything was, oh, I don't know where that thing was. I just know it was very important and I'm worried about it. Also, the music being really bland just made it really hard for me to get into it.
Yeah, I agree, son, but I'm gonna actually go a little bit lower, I think. This, for me, was a 6 out of 10. For all the reasons you stated, but for me, it's more the story. I just could not get into it. It gets worse when you get deeper in the game and find Sill's family. I won't spoil it, but the entire interaction had me banging my head on the desk at how bad and annoying it was. Now, Syl does use this for some personal growth, and her decision to break from familial tradition and forge her own path was cool. But the lead up to that really could and should have been handled better. Now, I want to say, this game is about $20 on the PlayStation Store, and about $25 for the digital deluxe edition. At that price point, this is a really good bargain. So for a value title, it does have that going for it. For only being made by about a 12-person team, they did a pretty decent job. But for a game that I thought looked really great when I first saw it, I was unfortunately left disappointed overall.
So those are our thoughts on Terra Memoria. Did you find your way, or did you get lost to the Night Howlers? Whatever your thoughts, comment below and let us know. And as always, if you like our work, please support us with a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks everyone!